Boy, we got some geniuses in this world. Real geniuses. Shout out to the New Jersey City University. Shout out to Hip Hop Fundamentals. Shout out to your everybody with common sense. Now, let's have the topic Alpo, somebody who I've known. First of all, I'm going to say this. If I see a body, some blood samples, I mean, that don't mean shit. But if I see a body, then we can have a discussion. But somebody said Alpo part of hip hop history. Okay, let me clear this up real quick. Please do not insult the pioneers and legends of this culture who articulated this from the very beginning. Please don't do that. And it seems like a lot of your numbnuts who never made a hit record, who might have been associated with somebody, always the ones that got the opinions of shit. Now, I grew up around era of Frank Lucas and Nicky Barnes. They knew DJ Hollywood. They knew some of the rappers that was coming up. Are they part of hip hop history, or are they part of R&B history? Is Black Ross, drug dealer, part of hip hop history? Answer that question. The original Clark Kent that was down with Kool Herc. Is Clark Kent from Superman part of hip hop history? Kool Herc name was from Hercules. That's Hercules part of hip hop history. Scorpio name, Scorpio, Mr. Ness from Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. Is Mr. Ness the IRS enforcement? Is he part of hip hop history? Noriega the rapper took the name of a drug lord. Is he part of hip hop history? Is Pablo Escobar part of hip hop history? Answer those questions, idiots. Is Scarface part of hip hop history? No. Neither is Alpo. Now, if you want to sit up here and say Suge Knight, who ran Death Row, who was part of the gangs and all that, yeah, that's part of hip hop history. Biggie, part of hip hop history. He was murdered. Nipsey Hussle, you know, FBG, Duck, they're all part of the history of hip hop. And drug dealers in our generation did not influence anybody that I knew back then in the history of hip hop. And the history of hip hop has been disseminated and stopped years ago because the record industry does not dictate what we do. The media does not dictate the history of this culture. Let's get that straight. Now you got a lot of people that's been in the drug game that became successful rappers. They are part of the hip hop history, but just because you're a drug dealer doesn't make you part of the hip hop culture. Just because the way you dress does not make you part of the hip hop culture. Just the way you talk and wear your clothes. The sagging of the pants is some jail shit. Y'all got the shit fucked up. I know a lot of niggas from the street that sold drugs. They're not part of hip hop history. I don't see no flyers with them. I don't remember promoting any shows or anybody promoting shows with their name on it. Yeah, the gangs are in the youth of America who are affiliated with gangs were able to go and make records. Y'all are the ones who focus on their street life, thinking that's credibility instead of focusing on their music. But the reason why y'all glorify the street life because that's your mentality. And the music industry don't have nothing but love to feed off your fucking stupidity. I got nothing against Alpo. But if you want to sit up here and say Jimmy Henson, who managed Game and work with other artists, yes, when you mention the Game, you mention Jimmy Henson. When you want to mention Irv Gotti, yes, you could mention Supreme, but you just don't go out and mention Supreme. So what can I say? If anything you say about Supreme is either that they sold drugs in Queens or he made a movie and they was down with Irv Gotti. You know? That's the only reason you would mention them. Or Fat Cat. Yeah, they came to my shows at the Jamaica Roller Rink. When you want to talk about Fez magazine that talked about hip hop and the street life, then you talk about my man Artie and Antoine. When you want to talk about Don Diva, Kevin Childs was in the streets. But he put out a magazine, Cavario and all of them. Yes, that is part of hip hop history. Their names get mentioned because they not only talked about the street life, they also gave interviews with hip hop artists and rappers. Y'all got to get the shit correct. And that's meaning that they get mentioned when you want to talk about some of the magazines associated with hip hop, like Rap Masters, Word Up, Right On, you know, the magazines that came out the West Coast, Rap Pages and all that stuff, Right On, that did R&B and all that. Yeah, you throw Fez, Don Diva, As Is, and all that shit up in there. Because generations of times changed. But just to go out and flat out say, oh, he influenced the culture. How you going to, one person going to influence the culture who sold drugs? He was popular for your culture. You still had Pee-wee Kirklands and all these dudes. What about all the dudes that came before Meechnam down in Detroit? Are they part of hip-hop culture? Is Meechnam part of hip-hop culture? Or they was associated with artists in the hip-hop culture? Now, if they got any flyers that says BMF and they got acts on there, yes, as promoters, yes, they become part of. But they're not the artists. So let's talk about the drug culture associated with hip hop. Why don't you talk about it like that? The history of the drug culture. But stop trying to always drag hip hop down into the fucking ground. Always dragging our shit into the ground. And why everything that happens, a new rapper coming up and he get killed, oh, an up and coming rapper. Motherfucker probably never rap a day in this fucking life. The hip hop rapper shot and killed by the police trying to rob him. Y'all just want to take everything and throw it on fucking hip hop. When fucking Barney, the fucking toy, the kid cartoon that Barney and Fred Flintstone them rapped in commercials, are they part of the hip hop culture? Don't answer that motherfucking question for me. Because it seems like y'all really got the shit fucked up. When the last time the Alpo or any of them motherfuckers got an award associated with the culture of hip hop, or got a Grammy, or in the museum, the Black History Museum? They'll be under the drug shit. There are a lot of people that know a lot of people in hip hop, and you hang around people in hip hop. Pimps, the Hungry Snoop, what's his name? What's his part of the hip hop culture? He's a pimp. Be who you are. It's bad enough that we got to suffer with the hip hop culture and maintaining everything that we did from the positive and from the Chuck D's and the X-Clan and all of us and putting out the positive music and everything, and y'all just destroyed that shit. Ain't none of your rappers named yourself Malcolm X or Martin Luther King and shit. Y'all went and named yourself after the devil, the powder, the gods of drugs and shit. But it's okay with society. Society didn't give a fuck. Well, all of a sudden, y'all just want to just throw everybody into hip hop. That's the problem we got now. Y'all mixing hip hop with rap music. Y'all mixing our culture and what we created and what we know the definition of and what we know what it's about, what the bullshit y'all want to make it today. And it ain't got nothing to do with us. Nothing. It might look the same, but it ain't the same. It's just like that 12th man on the bench. I play basketball, but I don't do what LeBron do. I'll get a ring if we win. And if we lose, nobody gonna mention me. He gets the hit. It all look the same. Y'all done took everything and wrapped it into some real nigga shit. That's all you did. Just gave it the nigga shit. And y'all just go along with all y'all that make podcasts and everything. It's just all the nigga shit. I just listen to y'all. None of y'all ain't got shit to do with hip hop. Y'all don't even talk about nothing positive. Everything is negative. And just made it the nigga shit. Then they'll appoint certain people like they the gods. They just give certain people titles and put them in charge and let them just suck everybody else up and they control everything and just make it the nigga shit. You don't know what real hip hop is? Then talk to people who's been there from the beginning while we still alive. And I want to excuse y'all my skin and going through cancer and chemo, so it makes an effect on my skin. But I'm not gonna sit up here all day and try to preach. I'm not even preaching. Everybody got their own opinion. But when it comes to the history of hip hop, you want to learn, I can show you and teach you. Okay? Stop trying to include shit because somebody associated with it. It's not hip hop. I knew a lot of drug dealers coming up and they hung around and came to the parties and all that shit. They ain't got nothing to do with hip hop. Now, if they were the ones, if they were partners and put money in and all that, you know, back in the day, I had a friend that might have sold drugs and there, you know, if I mention him, he's part of hip hop as a promoter or whatever. You had some that sold drugs that were record, but they didn't want to be known. They didn't want to be known. Fat Jack, the own Harlem World, was a drug dealer. So he does go in the history of hip hop because he owned Harlem World. But then Leon Brill, who owned Bro International, was into real estate. But he owned the club. So you got different fashions. And the fashion that count the most are the artists, the B-boys, the graffiti artists, the DJs. Everything aside from clubs and magazines and managers and publicists, y'all separate from the history of hip hop. Y'all in the music business. Y'all in the business of fucking goddamn vultureness. Y'all the vultures. Live Nation ain't got shit to do with hip hop or its history. They promote all kind of concerts. So does AEG. If they decide to do a tour, that's later on in life. Oh, AEG did a hip hop tour. Okay, for that timeline, yes. But let's go back and think about it on some real shit. The Colonel, Elvis Presley manager, is the one who put the money up for the Fresh Fest. So let's include him into the hip hop history. Yes, his name does go in there during that timeline of the Fresh Fest. The Colonel, Elvis Presley manager, put the money up. Ricky Wallace for Fresh Fest to happen. But that ain't something everybody, well, you know, like he got on the mic and, no, he was an investor into the culture of hip hop. But when you talk about the history of hip hop, oh, well, you know, I was giving shows and you know, I had this one and that one and everything. And in my life, I knew Alpo, but if I'm talking about what party I gave, why would I mention him? He was just a fan like everybody else. I'm gonna talk about the artist. If he was at the Kumo D Busy Bee at Harlem World and he said that he was there, he witnessed history. He's not on the flyer. He was never on the MC convention flyer. The only person in Harlem that's part of the hip hop culture in the deep sense, from a deep sense, is AZ. That was down with Rich Porter and Alpo because he came from the group with Gangsta Ludum called Mob Style. They go into hip hop history. They made an album, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. If you want to talk about my man Wayne G and them from G-Force, they're part of hip hop history. They might not have became popular, but they're part of hip hop history. If you want to talk about Gusto, who had Rooftop Records, okay, he's part of hip hop history. He put out records, hip hop records. Y'all get your shit right. Seriously. Because my history of hip hop is not going to be tainted with bullshit. And a lot of us ain't going to go for that shit. Okay? Serious. Y'all have a blessed day.